Hey Ecofictologists, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lovis and with me here today is C.R. Rowanson, and we have something very, very special to share with you all. But before we dive in, Clark, do you want to give a quick intro to yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I am C.R. Rowanson, also known as the Magic Engineer, but when you're talking to me as a human, it's just Clark. I am an award-winning author. I'm also a YouTuber, a developmental editor, and a writing coach, and I love everything about storytelling, but I'm a bit more obsessed with magic systems than anything else.
Yes, and this is why we get along so well. I first contacted Clark after hearing him on the Exolore podcast run by Dr. Moya McTeer, where they created a magic system for a planet with an ever-changing night sky, and I thought, I 100% absolutely need to meet this person. We are on the same level of nerd.
And it was a planet filled with sentient spiders that ended up eating sigils out of their webs in order to do magic. It was really cool. It was
great. It was so good. It was so good. And you all know I'm an uber nerd. I'm a scientist. I love fiction that focuses on ecological themes. And I especially love it when ecofiction is used as a tool to communicate something, to communicate science or other specialties where you learn something as you read. I think it's a really, really powerful tool for communication, and I gab on about it on my channel all the time. So I approached Clark and I said, well, hey, are you interested in doing some kind of collaboration where we invite cool people to talk about cool stuff and just build magic systems based on that cool stuff? I think it's kind of the gist of the email I sent you. You seem to be into the idea though.
Yes, yeah, so I totally into it. I actually have a background in chemical engineering and chemistry. Huge nature freak. Love outdoors and all of that stuff. So nerd right here, and I was super excited to get into this because I think a lot of our stories can do more work for us as people than we necessarily think they can, and we already in a lot of ways use our stories for teaching. That's what fables are. Our stories a lot of times are there to teach us lessons, help us process different emotional stuff, working through various forms of metaphor and direct comparison. And this is just a more technical version of that. And I don't know, I think this is going to be really cool.
And this idea has actually now, amazingly, it makes me so happy, it has now come to fruition. So here we are, really, dear viewer, to introduce you to Spells and Specialists, the show where we use magic and stories to teach technical topics and communicate science. A nice, easy tagline, not a tongue twister at all. The purpose of this video right now is to let you know what to expect from this series and from each episode within this series and how we've set it all up. Basically, helpfully, we've broken it down into 4 steps. So the first step is very simple. It is just to learn cool stuff. This is where we just ask our guests questions about what they do, and we get to nerd out over all the cool stuff that they do. And then we also get to figure out what the goal of the science communication should be. Is it to change minds? Is it to encourage some behavioral change? Is it to challenge misconceptions or to inform people about the newest findings? What are we doing here? What are we trying to achieve with this project?
And specifically, what is it our specialist wants to teach? Like, of everything they know, is there a specific topic they really want to communicate? And once we have that, we get to move on to step 2, which is where we start digging into the magic system stuff, starting with finding the seed crystal. And if any of you have watched the videos on my channel, The Magic Engineer, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's fine. Seed crystal is a term from chemistry because crystals can't grow off of nothing. They actually need a surface to start forming around. So in labs, to grow high purity crystals quickly, they start with a little tiny speck of the desired crystal, and that is called the seed crystal. It allows everything else to form rapidly and with, like I said, high purity and exactly the way they want it to form. And that's what we want for our magic systems. It's really just your point of inspiration. But the difference between general inspiration and your seed crystal is when you find your seed crystal, and I'm sure you will see this as we start going through some of these episodes, when you find the seed crystal, everybody's eyes just light up and things just start snapping into place. Everything just starts rapidly forming and growing around it, and new ideas are coming up, and it just expands so rapidly. That's what you need. You need to find that little nugget that will make everything kind of explode. And to get there, we'll be asking a variety of questions and walking through the different things that our specialist likes and doesn't like about stories. Because the seed crystals can actually be anything. We will try and get them down into a single sentence, a simple statement, but where they originate can be basically anywhere. Once we have that, it's super useful just in terms of getting ideas going, but then also if we ever get stuck, we have a topic that we can return to in order to get us excited once again and reinvigorated through the rest of both the magic building and even the story building process. Once we have that, that's when we get to go into step 3. And we are going to build the foundation of a magic system. It's not going to be a fully fleshed out magic system, but we will go through most of the broad strokes. And that's primarily going to start with looking at the magic system blueprint. And again, you can learn more about the magic system blueprint on my website, on my YouTube channel. Not going to go into all the details here, but there's a variety of variables and functions that I feel all magic systems have, and I've built that into a tool. We're going to go through the tool, identify where these variables sit for our specific magic system and our world, and that's going to tell us a lot about how all of it fits together. And then in the cases where we have time, we'll also explore a little bit about identifying some effects and patterns and rules and limitations if we don't already have them at that point. Because with all of the work we've already done, odds are good, especially because we're building it off of the science communication aspect. There's probably going to be a bunch of built-in limitations just from what we're growing it from. But that's going to be where we get through all of that. And by the time we're done, we should have a fairly solid system. It's not fleshed out to the point that we could write the story with it in it, but it's solid enough that we can move on to the final stage.
And that final stage is where we brainstorm a story using all of these elements to achieve the science communication goal that we established in part 1. So we will most likely have come up with a few story elements throughout the other 3 parts. It's just impossible not to collect little tidbits that get you excited along the way of things you might want to explore. Either something about how the magic system works or its limitations, for example. That is a great source of conflict for a story. So as we go through, no doubt we will be collecting little pieces of inspiration for conflict. You might also get an idea of the type of characters that you might want to explore this world and this magic system through their perspective. And we also will kind of know the role that the magic system plays in this world and how it interacts with the science or specialty that we are trying to communicate something about. And so using these as starting points, we will brainstorm a possible story we could tell to communicate what we want about these topics. How fleshed out that story is really depends on how solid the image is that we get as we go through. Sometimes we'll have the entire story mapped out. Sometimes we might only have the main conflict and the main character or some other combination of things. So we'll just kind of go with the flow. This is very much a creative experiment in this 4th part of what we're doing. So those are our 4 steps, and they are broken down into 4 parts of this episode. Clark, do you want to talk to us a little bit about the kind of schedule that people can expect from us for this series?
Yeah, I mean, we are just starting this out, so these are goals at the moment.
They are goals.
We'll see how this holds up, but our goal is we want to be posting new episodes every other month, and all of the story and science related portions are going to be going up on the Ecofictology channel, and all of the magic portions are going to be going up on the Magic Engineer channel. And they're going to be released staggered and also simultaneous. So like parts 1 and 2 are going to go out the same week. One on Ecofictology, one on the Magic Engineer, and then parts 3 and 4 will go up the following week, again split across the channels. Every other month, we're really hoping to have a new specialist on. We are looking for people, and it's going to be great.
We are looking for people. I am so excited about this project. I think we're going to have so much fun with it. In fact, we have already filmed our first episode with our first guest, so I know we're going to have a lot of fun with it, because
it was ridiculously fun.
Oh my goodness, it was so good. You know, that's really satisfying feeling when you're like, I think this is going to be a good idea, and then you do it and you're like, yeah, that was a good idea. It was so much fun. And we hope you all come along for the ride. Just come and learn cool stuff, build magic systems about the cool stuff, and just be nerds. Just embrace the nerdery, because we will be relishing the nerdery in this series.
Yes.
And just creating some cool stories.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really hoping that anybody watching, even though we aren't going to be giving some very set patterns for you to follow necessarily, which is what I really like to do with tools, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to learn a lot just from how we approach things, and at the very least get some inspiration for your own stuff. I'm so excited. This is going to be crazy fun. We did the first episode in like 2 portions, and at the end of each recording session, all of our faces were hurting from smiling so much.
Yeah.
Because it was, and we were all writing notes down as we were going through the whole thing. But if you have any suggestions for guests that you would like on the show, just let us know. We are looking for pretty much anyone and everyone with some kind of technical expertise. We're starting with scientists mainly because that's where we're more familiar. It doesn't have to be that. Anybody who has a technically detailed field, so communications, logistics, infrastructure, architecture, medical field, literally anything where there is some complex or interesting theory that somebody wants to communicate across. And if they are also a storyteller, all the better, because that just makes some of the brainstorming a little easier. If not, I bet we can make it work anyway. But basically, if there's cool stuff to be learned, we want to talk about it.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that a lot of what we've kind of thrown at you today will make more sense once you've seen the first episode or 2 from us. But we really hope you enjoy this project as much as we know that we are going to. Our first guest is Dr. Moya McTeer. It seemed only fair to invite her on to the project as the first guest, because she was the inspiration. She started it all off with that amazing podcast episode that the 2 of you did. And she happens to be an astrophysicist and a folklorist. So, I mean, who is more perfect to be on this show? So parts 1 and 2 of that episode will be airing. I'm gonna put out a tentative date here of July 13th, so keep your eyes open and I will be posting about that. So thank you so much for joining us for our intro video for Spells and Specialists. We look forward to learning all the cool stuff with all of you.
And if you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe to the Ecofictology channel. And as always, make sure you hit the bell so you get notifications. And I think that's everything at this point. I'm sure you know way more about what to do on YouTube than I do. But make sure you're following Ecofictology.
And also make sure you're following the Magic Engineer. Go and subscribe to Clark's channel so you, as well as getting all parts of the Spells and Specialists episode, you get all the cool content that he posts all about magic building and magic systems. That is That is all from us. I'm your eco-friendly magus.
And I am your personal magic system engineer.
And this is Spells and Specialists.